Hey, Coach Crazy Cat. Here with my awesome friend Amanda. Wow. Talk about joy through stress. So, we're planning to talk about joy through stress because life is kind of crazy right now. And even if you're trying to find some joy amongst the craziness in the world, still your day can cause hiccups and things will happen and it can be frustrating. So, we just had to try 3 times to come on and go live. So, it is as it is. So, welcome back, my dear.
Hi. I'm so glad we're doing this.
Me too. Me too. It's hard to stay in joy sometimes, but it's so worth it. Whenever I get to the end of the day and like things are going to happen, if I've stayed in joy most of the day, I feel a whole lot better than if I allowed myself to get drug into because it doesn't matter. The Father has it. He already knows, right? He has an autocorrect button and he's going to put us back. So it doesn't really matter. There's no reason to be upset, but it's hard in this world sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you stay in a joyful, because you always.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's
I know that the things that we're going through try to rock our boat, and just being grounded in what's true can really help us not get swayed by all the things that are trying to, spill. Have you ever heard that analogy about the coffee, like what's in your cup, and like when your cup gets bumped, what spills out of your cup, right? So what do we keep in our cup all the time? Because life is gonna bump us, right? It's gonna cause us to lose our footing sometimes, and if we have to make sure what's in our cup is good stuff, right?
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So when you brought that up this morning, I was thinking, I'm actually reading Lamentations right now. I just finished Jeremiah and I just started reading Lamentations. And so I love that you brought up joy, because Lamentations is like, it's sad. It's a sad book. It's like full of grief and sorrow, but I love that in the midst of all of this, the author still finds hope and joy. And they were going through like way worse than anything that we've ever experienced here. They were being carried off to other nations in exile, that they were starving, they were losing the land that they had been promised. And, is it Jeremiah, I think, that writes Lamentations? He looks around and he's like, wow, like everything is terrible. Right?
And poor Jeremiah was lowered down into a pit. Remember that? And grimed for a couple of days, like in the mud. Oh my goodness. But he still always could see the joy, even though he was in a really bad spot.
Well, and he says here, I have become the laughing stock of all peoples, the object of their taunts all day long. He has made my teeth grind on gravel. He has covered me in ashes. My soul is bereft of peace. I have forgotten what happiness is. And so I say, my endurance has perished. So has my hope from the Lord. But I love that just 2 verses later, he says, but this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good that we should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. And I think when we deal with stress, I mean, even just recently, I had to kind of pull back and refocus and think, where does my joy come from? Where does my joy really come from? Does it come from traveling and seeing the world? Does it come from the successes that I've had with business? Does it come from food that I'm eating? Like, where's my joy actually coming from? And I had to pull back and really take a hard look to figure out why am I upset? Why am I sad? Are the things that are making me upset really worth it? You know, are they really the things that matter the most? And what I was reminded of is this world is passing away. This world is not our home. This world is temporary. And what is eternal is Christ and Him and doing what He asks us to do. So when I'm discouraged and when I'm frustrated, it's because I've lost track that of the hope that I have in Christ and the gratitude I have for Him taking my place, you know, on the cross, bearing my burden, bearing my sin on His own person for eternity. And I think when I lose track of that, that's when I get caught up in the anxiety, the stress, the not knowing what's going to happen, feeling like I have to know what's going to happen, or maybe being disappointed or discouraged in the things that are happening in the world around me. I forget the Lord's faithfulness is so great towards us. You know, He is so faithful even in the midst of stress. And I think just looking around and reminding myself, this is how He is faithful. This is how He's shown Himself faithful in my life. And recalling all the times in my life where He has sustained me, He has walked beside me, He has reminded me of His goodness, even in times that are really hard. And I think that's where we get our joy from. And that's why it's so different from anywhere else. Some, you know, people that don't have Christ, where are they finding their joy? They're trying to find it in God's creation or, you know, shadows of truth instead of real truth. And shadows just do not satisfy. They're not going to satisfy. And so they keep looking and they keep searching for something that's really going to give them that lasting joy. But that's only found in Jesus. Yes. So going back to Him and remembering that His love never ceases, His mercies never come to an end. Every morning we wake up and He's given us new mercies. And I love that song, The Great Is Thy Faithfulness, right? It's like one of the best songs ever.
Yeah.
Morning by morning, new mercies I see. Every day there's new mercy in our life that will sustain us. So that's just what I was thinking about this morning when you were talking about joy. And I just thought it was so appropriate because I had just read this verse in Lamentations.
That's really
and
awesome.
What strikes me is he is enduring so much, and He still says, but in the Lord I will have this hope.
Yeah, that's just absolutely beautiful. And that really is an eye towards the kingdom. And I like try to remind myself, I'm like, our passport's not of this land. When we become a child of God's, where our spirit is actually translated, we're in the throne room, right? We can pray to God anytime we want. And we're trapped in this body and we kind of have to live here and do things, but it's easy to get sucked into where's the money coming from, or this thing didn't work out, or that thing. But in the scheme of life, it doesn't matter. This life is going to be just like a whisper. And we're going to look back and we're going to be like, wow, you know, and every day I try to get to the end of the day and just take stock and try to remember the things where I got a little bit closer, because it's hard when you're a human, right? We still have those little like natural tendencies that want to come out. I get frustrated. I'm hard on myself, but I try every day to be more like Him and just, you know, take a pause and just be like, you know what? Thank you for this trial, because everything that we go through makes us stronger and makes us better able to handle the next one.
Yeah. And teaches us more about Him and how He sustains us and He provides for us. Because even there have been days when I don't know how things are going to work out. I don't see how something could possibly work out. Like from my perspective, it seems impossible. But my perspective is so small. I see just a tiny piece of the whole plan, of the whole picture, even for my own life, much less other people's plan, you know, His plan for other people. But God sees the entire thing from beginning to end, from the beginning of creation till the end of time. He already sees it all, and nothing is a surprise to Him. So when I get caught up in how is this going to work out, you know, it's because I'm so focused on my tiny little section that I'm forgetting, like, God knows He's already there on the other side, and He's already come up with a way. He already has a plan. So I don't need to come up with it. I just need to trust, ask him to give me some wisdom, teach me how to, oh, and I love this. What is it? It says, it is good that one should wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. So when I get all stressed and frazzled, do I take time to stop and get quiet and listen to his word and be quiet? Or do I just keep, going on and on and on about it? How do I respond when these trials come my way? And it says, Jeremiah is saying, let him sit alone in silence. And actually, Job, right?
Oh.
Job, that's basically what he said too. He's like, I'm just going to sit here and be quiet. Like there's nothing else for me to say. I'm just going to be quiet.
Yeah. Because getting frustrated isn't going to help. And you're not going to curse God because you trust him. You trust what he said. You trust that you have a future. And things are going to happen in this world we're not going to understand. And that's just part of being in this world, right? Some things he allows us to go through. Think about Job.
Mm-hmm.
I would go through what Job would. It was really stressful. But in hindsight, if you knew, right, I'm going to sit here for a week or a month or whatever it was. It doesn't tell us how long it was. But get everything back. And the bigger thing is to have the blessings of God, and then forever. Everybody always says, oh, you have the patience of Job. Like, think of the example he's been forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes he allows us to go through it so we're an example for somebody else, and sometimes it's to refine us, and sometimes the enemy's just messing with you because you're making an impact and you don't know. Mm-hmm. But God, he promises not to allow us to go through more than we can handle. So he's going to take us through it. And the harder it is, the harder you get, right? Yeah. You know how, like, when they one of the hardest metals I know of is what they use on an airplane, and you just flew. So the rod that goes, because this huge airplane is coming down and landing, the landing gear has to be able to withstand this pressure from like 3 stories, like way more. And if anything happens to the landing gear, it has to sit for a period of 9 months just to see the cracks coming through. That's how much it's been treated, and it's weighted, and it's been refined, and it's been heated. Yeah. So it can become so strong, but that's what God's trying to do with us, right? Yeah. So we can be like
after my trip.
Now the testing that's been done is like absolutely fantastic.
I don't want to think about that when I'm landing. I just think, oh, it's going to land. It's going to be so.
It's going to be just fine. No, I actually worked at an airplane company once, and one of the airplanes actually ran off the runway, like in an accident. Like, just, they were not with people on it. It was somebody was doing a test, and because of that, the landing gear had to be completely taken apart, and everything had to be quarantined for 9 months because it would take that long to actually see a hairline fracture in a metal that's hard. Wow. It should make you comfortable because the testing that's been done and the validation through years and years and years. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I've flown so many times. So yeah. I mean, we're kind of getting on a tangent, but I do believe it's the safest form of travel because cars are really dangerous, actually.
They're really dangerous.
But you're absolutely right. I mean, we have to think that coming back to what we're talking about, like we know that there's someone who's watching us, watching over our lives, and he knows every little tiny piece from where we're sitting right now until we take our last breath. And I know, so my mother-in-law passed away from cancer a few years ago in 2017. And she had actually been diagnosed with that back in 2010, I believe. And so she went through chemo and radiation and everything. And we were studying the book of Daniel together. Oh. And she was sharing with me about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? Like in the fiery furnace. And they basically said, we are not going to bow to you. We're either going to get burned up in this fiery furnace or God's going to deliver us, like either way, we're going to be with the Lord. He's either going to be here with us and deliver us, or we're going to be with him after we get burned up, right? So what she said to me was, this illness, either way, I'm going to be in his arms. I'm either going to be in his arms through healing, and he's going to deliver me through the healing of my cancer, or he's going to deliver me into his arms, and I'm going to see his face. And that, her saying that, and then that was back in, I think, 2011 or 2000, when she was going through the chemo, and then she was cancer free, and then it came back. And it's just something that always came back to me, though, is what she said was, I'm going to be delivered from this, whether it is through this illness and I come out the other side. Well, and we can see that for our own trials. We're either going to be delivered through this trial by God bringing us through this trial, giving us what we need, or we are going to be delivered into his arms and we're going to see his face. Either way, it works out for us, right? Like, yeah, we got it taken care of. So I just love that she said that's going to stay with me for the rest of my life,
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you, everybody, for watching. And just try to stay in a place of joy. And if you're struggling, reach out to Amanda or I. We really do just love to share God, love others, and share his word. We'll pray for you, whatever you need. Just reach out and don't stay stuck. God, it says in Revelations 3:20, he's going around knocking on hearts, and just answer. It's the greatest thing you'll ever do. You'll never go back. You'll be like, what took me so long? That's how I felt. So you have a blessed day, my dear. That was so awesome, as always. And God willing, we'll be back with you next Tuesday.